Welcome to a brand new episode of Sequel Rights, the podcast where we take a look at the franchises that make you go, they made how many of those? And we give each and every sequel a fair trial. My name is Justin Camps, and I'm here with...
Elizabeth Ellie.
And...
Tyler Hymanson.
Whoa. I think Eliz was asleep.
I really was, yeah.
Luckily, if you fall asleep in the Poltergeist universe, nothing really bad happens to you, so it's totally fine.
Sure.
No.
We're back this week talking about,
We're back.
Yeah, I was gonna do that, but I was like, I did it last time. We're back to talk about Poltergeist II, The Other Side.
Mm-hmm.
But, every week we have a special ask of our listeners. Please, Eliz, how can our listeners interact with us every week, each and every week?
Yes, let us know about Tales of the Other Side at sequelrights@gmail.com and give us your suggestions for future franchises as well. Or find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sequel Rights.
And we need stars. We need your Apple Podcast review stars so we can fuel our interstellar space engine.
Your stars are our power.
That's right.
We eat stars for breakfast. Yes, and if you leave us a review or send us an email, we'll be happy to read it out loud. We'll be more than happy to read it out
Or
loud.
act it out in a one-act play.
Yes, we'll do it live, as they say. As Eliz said last week, if you send us a review on the international iTunes, please email us at sequelrights@gmail.com a screenshot of that, because we don't have the international iTunes, so we can't see your review.
Blame Trump.
And we want to see it. It's all his fault. But without further ado, let's take a trip to the other side. Okay, now you might be thinking, what the fuck is going on in that trailer?
Is that a spooky Halloween sound effects
That's what I was
record?
gonna say. So now you know. You need to buy a spooky sound effects record. You can just play the Poltergeist 2 trailer at your Halloween party.
Yeah, I was going to play maybe the whole thing, but it goes on for a minute and there's not that much more. But you might not have heard a lot going on as far as there's no movie trailer voice guy, voiceover or anything. But I think it's actually a pretty effective trailer, because it's just kind of flashing all these horrific scenes from the movie, and as the what's his face walks up to their house, and it's just really kind of esoteric creepy.
Well, and I feel like she didn't even say it that way in the movie. I feel like they recorded that just for the trailer. Because the first movie, she goes, "They're here." Mm-hmm. This one, when she realized they were back, it was just they're back. It was definitely more scared and not the creepy ah.
She's underneath a blanket. It's very strange, and also the audio in the movie sounds weird when she says it.
Yeah.
But you know what? They are back. Poltergeist 2, The Other Side. I was shocked to see the entire family back for this movie.
Well, except for the daughter that got killed.
That's true. Okay, you're right. The daughter that no longer exists.
Instead of just being she's in college, they just completely ignored the fact that she ever
apparently
existed.
they shot the scene where they were going to shoot the scene where she's in college, but this movie apparently also ran 130 minutes at one point and comes in at a clean 90.
Yeah.
Wow, thank God.
I felt like it was kind of short, actually. So
yeah. Well, it's one of those movies that we'll get into it, but a bunch of these scenes appear out of order in the released film. So there are things that were not originally meant to be shown in this order being shown in this order.
Okay.
And it has a wealth of continuity errors.
Great.
Yeah. Characters blink in and out of existence.
Literally in a couple scenes.
Yep.
Yeah, I was watching this and I was like, oh, they replaced the daughter with a grandma. gotta have another family member.
That's right.
Make it be the grandma. But yeah, the whole family, for the most part, is back. Jerry Goldsmith is back.
Yep.
Yeah, doing some weird shit.
Yeah, he, believe it or not, did not get the Academy Award nomination this time around. Couldn't bring that back around.
I read before watching this movie that it got a comedy award, that, and an Academy Award nomination for visual effects, and I don't think it deserved that.
Ooh.
Well, I was like, this is like, this is like the big summer blockbuster that gets.
Yeah, right.
Was it a nomination?
Transformers.
Did he get a nomination for Best Original Song for God is in His Holy Temple?
I don't think so.
It did not.
Is that like an actual hymn? Or is
I was
that made
looking that up,
this?
and there's a couple, hymnery.org or whatever.
Yeah.
Hymnery.org that listed as author anonymous. There's one other website that lists it as having been. The texts haven't been taken from 1864 Hymns of the Spirit.
Okay.
So maybe at least the text was, not original text.
And according to Wikipedia, it was sampled in a Marilyn Manson song.
Yeah.
From this movie.
Shocking.
Which is on point, I think, because that's one of the creepier parts of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Julian Beck's character. Oof. Terrifying. Yeah, so we kind of pick. No, actually, you know what? We don't pick right up with the family.
We're in Monument Valley.
Yeah, we pick back up with some weird, not
mystical
weird, but
native stuff.
Native American mysticism. Oh boy. We have. We're introduced to Will Sampson's character Taylor, who is apparently really good at climbing. Climbs to the top of a very high spire. Yeah, Mission Impossible 2 style. No, it's funny. It shows like this impossibly high spire in Monument Valley, and it shows him looking up at it, and then the next scene is him on top of it. I'm like, I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I believe that. But yeah, some weird stuff goes down. Another fellow Native American guy appears out of nowhere. And starts, playing a drum.
I feel like that this is the thing that happens in so like the thing about America is it's not that old, right? So you don't have like old blood and old things, like there's not witches and things like that. So whenever some screenwriter's like, oh, I need shorthand for something ancient or spooky or supernatural, they just start reading the cliff notes of Native American culture and throwing it in there. And I think that for a 1986 audience, it works. And I think that watching it now, it's like, well, that's kind of lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad, but I at the very least, I was like, at least they cast, Will Sampson, who is, full-blooded Native American.
Well,
actor.
and it's not even that it's like inherently bad, but it's just that they never explain what it was that was or how it relates to this story at all.
Yeah, and it was very strange because he kind of takes over the role, Tangina's role in this
But then
movie.
she keeps popping back.
Yeah, she pops back in, but she's also inexplicably like, not sure of her powers anymore for some reason, even though the previous movie we saw her just totally like handle the situation and kick ass the whole time.
Right.
And it's just kind of weird. I feel like this movie just was like trying so hard to come up with like a new way to tell the same story that it was kind of like too much.
So is it like what we need to come up with a name for this, of the sequel that tries to do the same thing, but then they're like, oh, well, no, there's a thing about the thing that happened the last time that you don't quite understand. Let's get a little bit like, oh, it's even more like the thing that happened in the last movie was super special. And here's why it was special.
Well, it's kind of like retconning the origin of the ghosts.
Right.
Basically. Yeah, well, it's like, okay, those, they move the headstones but not the bodies. So those are the ones that attacked them, but also there was even more scary ones underneath them.
There was an even older evil.
Yeah, like there's a deeper gravestone.
Next
Which, like, the scary demon that came out of the closet was way bigger and scarier than anything we saw in this movie. Yeah. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe he was the one controlling it all along or something.
I guess that's what they're trying to say. It's so they're trying to recontextualize the big bad from the first movie, but like there's just something nice about like no, this planned development had no respect for what was there before, for the lives that came before, the things that happened before, and there's a price to pay for that.
Yeah, because now you're taking it kind of out of the hands of the developers, because this is something that no one could have prevented because they did not know that this was under there.
Exactly.
Whereas before it was like, like
you shouldn't move. Yeah, like
suburb.
you can't move a graveyard, you dum-dums, and then put a tract home on top of it.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess they probably had to come up with some new reason why there was even scary or evil, because the movie seemed to have, the original film seemed to have vanquished whatever was going on. They kind of paid the price.
Yeah, in the best way.
Yeah.
But, so we get the family, they have lost their house, and they are running out of money.
They are hilariously trying to, cash in on their insurance policy for the old house.
I did like that. Because, these horror movies or superhero movies never deal with the, aftermath of the insurance. And they're like, they said the house hasn't been destroyed. It's just missing. Like, we can't get our payment.
There was that one show that was going to try to do that, right?
Yeah, it failed.
That's true.
Sorry, Vanessa Hudgens.
Yeah.
Oh well. I love this little scene where they're like talking about the insurance, and that was just a fun character beat for these guys.
You're like, well, according to the insurance company, the house is not lost; it is missing.
Yeah. So they just don't. They think it might still turn up.
He's just like, I feel it in my heart. The house is not coming back.
Yeah, and Craig T. Nelson goes on this rant. It's so great.
Yeah.
In that moment, and you see like that's a great scene to like reestablish the parents and like their fun relationship that they have, and like that they're still in love and everything. Mm-hmm. And we're reintroduced to the kids again, Robbie and Carol Ann. I hope to God that you guys are finally more on my side about Robbie being a total dickbag.
Yeah, he is.
He's kind of more of he's again, like most of the lines in this movie are like telling
shut
Carol
up, you
Ann to
butt
shut
much.
up. Yeah, he hates. You didn't hate him for hating Disneyland. He calls Carol Ann's like, let's go to Disneyland, and he's like,
don't be such an infant.
Yeah, shut up. Oh, gross. He says, oh, gross, you infant, or whatever.
I mean, that doesn't mean he hates Disneyland. He's just saying it's a stupid suggestion on her part.
I think it implies that he hates Disneyland. Otherwise, why would he say, oh, gross, you fucking infant?
Guess, but I thought he was just like, that's a dumb idea.
Yeah, what are we, feral cats? We can't live in Disneyland.
I mean, I can't feel that bad. I'm not scared. Sorry, I can't feel that much hate towards him because, like, the braces thing was super scary.
But in my mind, he deserves it.
Oh, man.
So the braces thing in this movie is like, so spoiler alert, the poltergeists.
They're back. We said that already.
Poltergeists follow them to, it's Elaine, right?
The
mother?
The mom's
Her name's
name?
Diane. Diane's mom's house.
Yeah, Diane's mom's house.
We don't really know what state they're in, but they're
there. They're just in a different part of the valley.
Yeah.
And I lost my train of thought. I don't remember now.
They're back. They're torturing the kids, and
the poltergeists are back.
And so at some point, they've decided to protect the kids. They're all going to have a sleepover in the living room, but Robbie goes upstairs to brush his gross braces out.
Right.
And he gets locked in the bathroom.
Most people I've talked to about, like, oh, we're doing Poltergeist. Like, this scene fucked them up.
I was going to say I'm super glad I did not see this when I had braces or before I had braces.
I never had braces, and I never saw this scene, and so to me, it was hilarious.
Oh, God.
I did think it looked really cool, and, there's I bought the Shout Factory
shout out to
Blu-ray
Shout Factory
for this, and there's a lot of special features about the effects, and for this one, they had like made a whole like mask of his face, and
oh damn,
and the braces coming out was like a reverse shot and all this stuff, like really cool stuff. And also, I feel bad, I'm talking about how much I hate Robbie the character. I don't hate the actual actor, and one of the reasons I say this, because he's just doing a performance, but there's a whole special feature on the Blu-ray about the actor Oliver Robbins who plays Robbie, And it was kind of sad because like he mentions it multiple times in the documentary. But like one of the main reasons he was like excited to go back and do the sequel is because apparently he was like getting beat up all the time in 8th grade. And he was like, as soon as the call came in, he was like, yep, sign me up. Anything to get me out of school because it's like the most terrible thing. And I just thought that was really sad.
Wait, like just because he was nerdy or because they were like,
he didn't
you're,
go into,
you're a ghost kid or something like.
He didn't go into why he was getting beat up.
Oh,
Just
okay.
like he mentioned the bullies like were beating him up all the time. So I don't know. It just seems like a rough time. But yeah, I just think the character's annoying.
All right, I thought he was fine.
So you would beat that kid up?
Not the real kid, but
The thing about the kids is I like the fact that they're kind of normal. Like they're not all like they're not super They are more cautious, but they're not like comatose over what happened in the last movie. Like it's been a year. Carol Ann's like pretty much a normal kid. Like her stupid suggestion of like, let's go to Disneyland or Dunkin' Donuts, you know? And like even though his sister disappeared into a house for weeks and almost died and all this, it's not like he's treating her with kid gloves or anything. He's still like, you're dumb. No, you're dumb. They're arguing like normal kids.
Much like John Candy's wisdom in Home Alone, kids are resilient.
yeah. And there's even some hints that maybe for whatever reason they might not fully remember the events of the previous film. Whether it's because of like PTSD or
I think because they still wanted the movie to be fun.
Yeah, or some sort of supernatural.
Yeah, I think maybe Robbie remembers, but Caroline doesn't really remember what happened when she was in the thing. And Diane doesn't really remember what happened when she was in there either, in the closet.
Yeah, she even has like, there's a whole scene where Diane's talking to her mom, and she's like trying to recall. I love the scene where she's like trying to recall what happened, and she's like slowly telling the story, but she can't quite remember, and then she has some flashes of like, Carol Ann getting taken and stuff. I thought that was kind of cool. I thought it was a cool idea that like maybe whatever had happened had caused some like amnesia over them as well, so that it could like maybe come back and get them.
Turns out Diane's side of the family has some clairvoyance running in the genes.
Powers for some reason. Yeah, that's
fun. The other reason the other daughter's not mentioned, because she didn't inherit.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make sense. They were like, wait, why didn't your older daughter get the...
She can feel colors.
Yeah.
I know there's a later part in the movie where they're like, we all have to go do this together as a family. And I'm like, you don't even mention the daughter. What happened to her?
In a way, it's one of those things where it's like, is it more respectful or less respectful? I'm not sure, like to like just remove the character rather than recast or just say like, oh, she's gone.
Yeah, I suppose.
I
don't know.
Because if they did do the whole she's in college thing, then it would seem weird that they were like, we need to be all together as a family in order to defeat this.
But not her.
Yeah. So.
Don't interrupt her studies.
Yeah.
It's important. We're paying a lot of money.
To see son.
Yeah.
This film was shot in Altadena, by the way.
Oh, sorry. Then to...
PCC.
Yeah. Not CSUN.
Okay. Part of my issues with this movie is that it takes for fucking ever to get started with any of this scary stuff. I'm kind of like...
it might not even get there.
Yeah, there's a few good scenes. But like, I kind of felt like, this movie was a huge hit. Most people saw it at the time, I assume. We're at the sequel. Everybody knows what's going to happen. Why can't we just jump into the ramping up the scares quicker? Instead, we're like dealing with all this like exposition and explaining
Diane's
things.
Mom, we have to find out. I mean, it's important to the story that we know that she knits and has a rose garden.
I guess
these are important things, and
so she's a regular old white lady,
right?
Yep.
Very important for us to know. And then Craig T. Nelson is now selling vacuums. Also important.
Not really.
I mean, so crucial to what's happening in this movie. Like, you got to know what these things... And then, like, there's a point... You got to... I mean, how would you know how they're living in this world if we didn't see them go to the mall and shop for nothing in particular?
We got to see Carol Ann talk to old men.
Ugh.
Julian Beck in this movie is so
worst.
Creepy.
Yes, he's horrifying.
I think like I see how you could see it as like bad acting or something?
No, I didn't. I meant he's worse as he's like terrifying and horrifying. Yeah.
I was like,
and creepy and looks like a molester.
Yeah, his performance is so off-putting, and I love that I don't know what the casting agent was going for, but they were like, "Can we somehow cast a living skeleton?"
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly like a skeleton.
I believe he was at the time fighting cancer.
Yes, I know, and he did actually pass away, I believe, before the movie even came out.
But in a way, though, he probably knew that he looked real bad and was like, "That's perfect for this movie." As like a serious actor, I'm sure he was like really into it.
Yeah, and I'm not making fun of his looks, really. I thought it was great because he's supposed to be this undead person, and I thought it was great, and his performance is so off kilter and weird.
So this movie makes a large point of a bunch. So we see Carol Ann looking at him, and then she sees a bunch of people walking through him.
Yeah,
and it makes it seem like that no one else is gonna be able to see this dude.
Yep.
But the whole family can see him, I guess. But I guess nobody else can?
Yeah, except for the people that are about to walk through him.
Yeah.
they can't see shit.
No, I actually wished he was in it more. Like, I wanted to see more of the cult and what happened and all these things. And they just really, kind of zoomed by that real quick. It was
I don't know where his death fell in the production, but I know that they had to bring in someone to do some ADR lines for him because he had passed away before it was completely finished.
Okay, well, that's a bummer, but
yeah.
Which is another one of the things people are like, "Oh, the poltergeist cursed," and it's like, well, he had cancer long before he was
yeah.
Well, but it's like they obviously took the time to hire all these extras and put them in period clothing and have them, act out all this stuff. But then they just barely use it as a really quick thing. I think you just could at least had maybe a few scenes showing what.
I mean, and it does that and it puts them in a cave where it's like, okay, so it's not a cemetery; it's a cave underneath the cemetery.
Yeah, where these,
basically a de facto mass
pilgrim
grave
characters or whatever
right.
had killed themselves.
There wasn't a pilgrim 10 Cloverfield Lane that happened where one of them got out.
But he's really, only in a handful of scenes, but I think they're pretty effective. And we talked about the, walking through bodies thing, and I'm sure that was something that, at the time, wowed people. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Now it looks kind of cheesy, but, there was lots of talk on the special features about how, at this time in movies, people had started to see lots of visual effects, like Ghostbusters was before this and Poltergeist. And now they were trying to with this movie, really trying to up the ante on effects. Because you have to try harder to trick people after they've seen so many effects. And I thought that was probably a pretty cool one at the time.
Yes, it is one of the things where this director was a first-time director, and stories from the set is that they would make these special effects and visual effects and plexiglass and things like this very specifically, and then he would change the shot at the last minute, and so a lot of the things are not being filmed at the ideal angle or light. And everyone was trying to be like, no, you can't. And he's like, no, it's going to look better over here. And it's like, but you can't.
Yeah, that's too
and
bad.
So there's some, even in this first scene, we see him, there's some scenes where you can see the reflection of the plexiglass while he's walking. Wow. You can see there's some stitching visible, some visible stitching.
Not just the knitting.
Yes.
I love the scene where Julian Beck, his character, shows up at the house and it just starts raining out of nowhere, and it's only raining around him, and it's sunny outside.
So I want to talk about that scene, but first we should say that Taylor shows up, and he is the Native American gentleman from the beginning, and he's like, "I'm here to help," and Tangina sent me, and they're like, "Why didn't she come herself?" And they're like, "Reasons." So he's trying to help them, and despite the fact that they went through this transformative experience a year ago, Craig T. Nelson is still like, "I don't trust you. Ha ha. You're,
how do you know he's not escaped from Indian reservation?
Something racist, blah, blah, blah. I'm probably 1/18th Indian," or whatever the hell he says.
Yeah, that was bad. That was so bad.
So anyways, he's there. He doesn't trust him. And then the creepy guy, what's his name? Kane?
Kane.
Yeah. Preacher Kane shows up at the house, and the family runs inside, but Craig T. Nelson stays with him at the door, and they have this whole long conversation through the screen door.
Yeah, and Kane is all like,
all of you are gonna die!
Yeah.
he's exactly like that.
That's how it ends.
You're all gonna die. That's such a great sound.
He basically comes to the door, and he tries to get Craig T. Nelson on his side by being like, you're not enough of a man to take care of your family, and this brown person's here, and then he's trying to usurp your authority or whatever. And then Craig T. Nelson's like, what? How did you know that? And then Kane was like, because you're a middle-aged white man, and also I've seen The Incredibles, and this is the same thing.
I love that you're joking. I love that he's actually like, because I'm smart.
But really, it's like, okay, it's not that big of a leap to be like this middle-aged white man who is currently working as a vacuum salesman, despite the fact that he used to be a successful real estate developer, feels insecure about supporting his family. What? How did he know?
Yeah, you're like, I'm still not convinced he has psychic powers. That's pretty obvious. Those problems he's having.
You're also insecure about your receding hairline.
But to Craig T's credit, he gets out of this. He gets out of this pickle.
Yeah, even though the confrontation takes a lot out of him.
Yeah,
according to Taylor,
and it takes a lot out of the runtime of this movie.
It is a very long scene, but I thought a good one.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I love that. You're talking about like Craig T. Nelson is like doesn't believe Taylor, but they suddenly start to believe him as soon as they see a bunch of like fake butterflies flying around him, and they're like, "Oh my god, wow, it's real!
It's Jupiter ascending.
Native Americans are special." Oh yeah, speaking of Jupiter ascending and bees, apparently Robbie was originally in the script supposed to get attacked by bees, but the actor is allergic to bees in real life. So
no!
That's how they decided to go with the braces thing instead.
Way
Fun
better.
fact:
bees are scary, but not as scary as this braces situation.
We've
It's
all
way more
seen the
creative.
Amityville horror already. We don't need more bees.
Yeah,
Or
the Wicker Man.
Yeah,
exactly.
Robbie, you would hate it, Robbie, even more if he was like, "The bees, not the bees."
I would.
Or that
would.
Futurama episode.
Yeah, so things are like still just slowly getting going. We get the "they're back" scene, which was not that exciting.
Craig T. Nelson and Taylor go like all the way back to Monument Valley for like a sweat lodge situation.
For about 2 seconds. This is one of those scenes that is clearly out of order.
Yeah. Well, because apparently Craig T. Nelson's actually a warrior.
Yeah.
Well,
He's
and
got the
after he's
warrior
given him this whole speech of like, you gotta stay with your family is your strength and your power. But hold on, let's go to the national parks for a couple days and sweat it out
and get stoned
Get totally stoned,
and go in
yeah.
this tent.
I'm gonna breathe into you some spirit gook.
Some sick ganj, brah. All right, now you're ready to go to the other side.
To the other side. Do they ever say? They never say the other side, do they? I don't feel like that title ever came up.
What is the other side? They don't even...
I mean, we see it at the end, I think.
Yeah, I guess. I thought it was when
It's where grandmas go.
I thought it was when you decided to, take things to the next level with Jason Derulo.
Oh! Speaking of grandmas, I thought that scene when she passed away was kind of funny because I at first I didn't understand what was happening because in the middle of the night, Carol Ann
See, Justin, we all die.
The grandma, I just thought the grandma was sleeping, and Caroline goes and kisses her on the forehead and then goes to bed.
Yeah, and then I thought she was like telepathically calling to say goodnight to her. And then all of a sudden the phone rings in like this weird like reverse ring, like ring.
Yeah, I was gonna say it took me a couple rings to realize that was a phone, and then I felt like, oh god, am I like young? I don't remember what a real phone sounds like.
And she picks it up and she's like, okay, I will. I love you too, and then hangs up. And then I was like, oh, that's cool. She's using her telekinetic power.
I thought that too, because she was just saying, like, I have
thought
powers.
she was dead.
Yeah, and then the next scene is like you find out she's dead, and I was like, oh, okay. I get it now. I get it, movie. You knew she was dead right away?
Yeah.
Fair enough. I just thought she was like flexing her powers a bit. Look what I can do. I can call you on this fake toy
Yeah,
phone.
it's like, oh, you think you're tight by trying to get no look yarn grabs?
Yeah. That was
I can call you good night from my sleep.
Grab me the aquamarine yarn. She never was like, Grandma, there isn't one. That'd be funny.
Also, what if she had just seen the yarn before and knew based on the texture she had seen with her eyes which one?
That would
felt
still
like-
be pretty impressive because she kind
I
of like
guess.
fumbles around. She fumbles around and then finds she must have had to practice or something.
Grandma knows.
Grandma knows. You have powers, my child. Where have we left off?
So right,
Shit's going down.
So we
He comes back from the sweat lodge. Mm-hmm.
at some point, Zelda Rubinstein shows up at the house.
I thought this was so funny because I'm like, this scene is playing out, and I was like, okay, are the ghosts attacking, or like, is this going to be some stupid like Tangina's so short joke like she can't see her?
Yeah, I also thought that. I was like, is it going to be Tangy?
Yeah. And then it ended up being like they spent this whole long like quote unquote suspenseful scene just to play out a joke that like isn't Tangina short? She can't even be seen out of the door hole. LOL.
Also, like, I know they were in the beginning of the movie together at the cave under the house, but for the rest of the movie, it seems like for some reason Tangina and Taylor could not like be on set at the same time.
Yeah,
like maybe
for
they
scheduling
had
reasons.
some sort of hideous feud between the two of them or something. You know, like
Yeah, they're
Also
never
part of
together.
the curse.
That's right. Yep, she shows up, and I think, at some point we get into like my favorite scene of the movie, I think. The whole possession thing.
Oh yeah.
I think before we get into this, we should talk about how there's one other really awesome person involved in this movie. The like creature design and a lot of the poltergeist designs for this movie were done by H.R. Giger.
Geiger.
what? The guy who invented Syl.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And there was kind of a lot of issues with his involvement. Like he didn't like to leave. Apparently he didn't like to leave his house a lot in Zurich or whatever, because he had a cat and he just loved that cat. Didn't want to leave his cat for very long. So he sent this.
Xenomorph's gonna get that cat. You gotta watch out.
Yeah,
for
he
it.
sent up all these awesome designs, and if you can probably look them up online, and there's some like amazingly insane designs for like the Great Beast and everything that's in the movie. But he sent along like an assistant to be on set, and apparently the assistant kind of ended up watering down some of his ideas, and they didn't kind of turn out the way he wanted.
Yeah, from what I heard, like he had a quote, and he was like, I saw it, and he was like, "Oh no, I guess it's too late to change." But
Yeah.
not what I wanted.
But you can still kind of feel his presence on this, especially in this scene where Craig T. Nelson gets possessed.
Yes.
Well, okay, so I didn't like the beginning because it was creepy and rapey, but then I was kind
Yeah.
of like, well, Christian cult leader, probably a rapist, so
Yeah.
you know. But it was just, it felt so like dirty seeing Craig T. Nelson do that.
Yeah. I mean, he was doing a great job at like pretending to be Reverend Henry Kane in that moment, I feel.
Yeah, he was. It was just like, ugh.
He was even doing the
dirty.
creepy like mouth thing. where
He
his
was.
teeth-
Yeah.
So like this is another one of those things where it's like, okay, so he goes to the Spirit Lodge with Taylor. Then Taylor's like, no, you got to take your family back to Cuesta Verde. You gotta, get him there and confront the beast on his own terms. And he's like,
But first, let's go back and get drunk off tequila.
then he goes back and it talks about what are we gonna do tomorrow. It's like, I don't know, we're gonna go mini golf, bowling, water slide. Like
Yeah.
he just starts just listing activities. Then gets pissed drunk, drinks a bottle of tequila, drinks the worm, and this is how he gets possessed. And then like afterwards, like,
So
we got to
gross.
go to Cuesta Verde, and it's like, what? You should have just gone.
He just still wasn't. I think he still wasn't believing the whole thing at that point. Maybe.
I guess.
Why wasn't the sweat lodge after
Yeah, right.
possession?
I don't know.
I think it's one of those that was definitely recut.
Really, really weird.
So he drinks the worm. The worm we see.
The worm is horrifying.
Yeah,
also.
as it's floating in the tequila, which I feel like that doesn't happen in like a bottle of Jose Cuervo unless you put it there. But anyway,
Well, yeah, it's
Yeah.
like some. Oh,
But,
they only
like-
do that in like real.
but the worm like comes to life and
It
it's like,
opens its eye and it's like
meh,
real creepy.
meh.
It's like worms don't even have eyes.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Then he shows up and is real creepy to his wife and real creepy to his daughter and gets rapey, and then tells her, does the same, like, because I'm smart.
Yeah.
She's like, you never wanted Carol Ann. Like, you think she's the cause of all the problems. You wish you never had her. And then Carol Ann hears this and blah, blah.
And she's like, what? Yeah.
But thankfully, Diane is at a certain point is just like, okay, come on, this is not even you, and you're obviously not. And then he barfs up the worm, and it is so gross.
This is
the best part. This is the best creature, the best everything.
It's so creepy, and like this is one of my like things that I jumped at the like Shout Factory thing to like see how they did this. And I was like, please have a special feature, and of course they did, and it actually features one of the people who worked heavily on Species as well, Steve Johnson, who at the time was working with Richard Edlund at Boss Films, who did, they did like Ghostbusters and all this stuff. And they also did the previous Poltergeist. And this sounds like just an insane thing for them to have put together. It was again like one of those like balloons that expanded, and they had set up this whole contraption inside Craig T. Nelson's mouth that like would shoot water into the balloon and expanded it like that. So it was like that was an effects shot, and then there's an effects shot of the thing like growing underneath the bed, which is so crazy. And so like it rolls underneath the bed, and then it starts to grow into like what looks like a skeleton baby thing.
Fetus monster.
And you're like, oh god, and it's like gooey and gross. And then like out of that, underneath the bed, out crawls this like horrific looking like one-armed monster thing, and I was like, that's got to be like a person or something in this costume, and I was just wondering how they did this. And it turns out that it was this stunt actor. Noble Craig is his name, and he actually apparently the story is he got, I think, enlisted into Vietnam or something, and he like the way they tell it in the special features, it's like he got off the helicopter and immediately stepped on like a landmine and lost both his legs and one arm.
God.
But he's in this amazing scene, and like what is. It's just like, you got to see the scene, you guys.
Oh, it's crazy.
Is it his face too? Because I felt like the face really looked like the other actor.
No, yeah, it was a mask that had like all these controlled parts that would like make him smile.
Because it really looked like him, and it was creepy as hell.
Yeah, it was so creepy. And apparently that mask even failed while they were shooting it. And the director's like, "Nah, we got it." And they kept that like there's like a twitch to it because the cables got stuck, and they just kept that in the movie, and people like love the creepiness of that, even though it was like an accident. But God, this scene is like, I mean, it's pretty masterful, the stuff that they did, all the practical effects.
Oh my God, yeah. It's that's the best practical effects in this movie.
Yeah, it's amazing. You gotta see this scene. I'm pretty sure it's up on YouTube if you want to watch it.
So they all get in the car, and we have a car possession.
Yeah,
situation.
the thing crawls out
angry.
The thing crawls out of the room. Oh my God. Yeah. The thing crawls out of the room, and like they have this confrontation with the great beast or whatever, and they're like trying to find Carol Ann. They run to the only place left is the garage, and they go to the car. And this is the scene where we learn like this movie was originally supposed to be in 3D.
Yes.
There's this hilarious
power tools start
there's this
flying
hilarious
around.
like chainsaw flying around like and it looks really bad. It's almost as bad as the flying objects in the previous film.
Yep.
But apparently that's a leftover 3D effect. But yeah, they escape in the car because we had seen, as we know that Taylor can do, he uses his medicine bag to just cleanse the car randomly.
He told Carol Ann that it was the only safe place that he could go.
Yeah, another thing.
She could go.
When he went to go like fix the car and he started doing that, I was like, oh no, why?
They drive all the way to Cuesta Verde. Also, wait, why was the dog's name E-Buzz? Was that the name in the first movie too? Of the
I don't
dog?
remember.
I don't remember either. What does that mean? What is that name from?
I don't know.
I think it's a prophetic Easter egg from time travelers. They were just talking about vapes.
Yeah. I love that at the point when they're trying to escape in the car, the dog is like also fighting the poltergeist. There's this whole like
there's a lot of like the poltergeist move for being a 1800s priest seems to know a lot about electricity and where and light sockets and how they work, and he wants to stick metal right into a light socket. And as a child who stuck a key in a light socket, I get it, Reverend Kane.
Yeah.
I feel
shit
like
is
this
fun.
keeps coming up. I feel like you've told that story before on the podcast.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I think he has.
can't remember
actually.
why.
I think he has.
stuck a key in a light socket.
But they're all like
Because
trying.
I'm smart.
Yeah, they're all trying to escape in the car, and they're like, "Come on, E-Buzz," or whatever his name is, and they see the dog like with the electric wire in its mouth, like.
Which is like, the dog would be dead.
I just thought that
It
was
is
so
completely
funny
electrified.
that the dog has been like a non-entity the whole movie, and then suddenly it's like fighting off.
Do you think Joseph would have been appeased? I guess we should maybe ask him. Maybe we'll get his answer afterwards, because he's like, the dog didn't do shit. Like,
That's right.
They addressed Joseph's note.
That's true. That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, so they're off to Cuesta Verde, so we can all have a family field trip down a giant hole.
And of course, when they arrive, Tangina is there suddenly.
She's been waiting the
Taylor
whole
is
movie.
not there. But then they go down more in the hole, and then Taylor is there.
there.
But then you can't see Tangina anymore.
No, she literally pops out of existence.
Yeah.
Yeah, very weird. Very weird.
But as they're going into the...
And Taylor's like, I've done everything I can for you. Good luck.
Jump into this fire.
Except now I'm back,
I
yeah.
swear to God, it won't burn you. Believe me.
when they... At some point, the score, like, turns into, like, a really marchy version of the, like, God is in his holy temple. And I'm just like, what is happening with this music? Yeah.
Holy temple.
Yeah. It was not, a great Jerry Goldsmith score, unfortunately. Normally, we love him here on the podcast.
76 corpses.
So, out of nowhere, like, Carol Ann and Diane just get, like, sucked into a vortex.
I mean, why not?
Yeah, they just disappear into the rocks. They're looking for him, and then this is where Taylor shows back up, and he's like, "You gotta go into the fire."
And he's set a fire underground, which is
Yeah.
ill-advised. Don't do this.
It's a red fire, too, yeah. They jump in the fire. Robbie and Craig T. Nelson both jump in, and they're now we're finally in the other side. Apparently, it's filled with green screen.
And the other side looks like the Days of Our Lives intro.
It really does. Or like the sky from Neverending Story.
Yeah.
I wanted them to just fly. They were just kind of floating, but I really wanted them to have Falcor.
Yeah.
This is the moment where the movie was like, I get what you're trying to do, but the technology isn't quite there yet.
This part of the movie was apparently completely reshot by a different director.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yes.
They completely changed the ending. And this ending, Stephen, Craig T. Nelson's character, gets handed a harpoon from Taylor, and he throws the harpoon at the beast, I guess?
Yeah, the Great Beast, which is very disturbing looking. It's got all these faces on it.
By the way, Taylor had that spear or harpoon since the very beginning of the movie at that first scene and never used it the entire time, and then suddenly passed it to him through the fire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wonder if that first scene was also
Right.
a reshoot.
Right.
They were like, we gotta explain why he had the spear.
But
I
then
guess.
Carol Ann, she gets drawn to the light.
But yeah,
She gets trapped.
Even before that, she gets grabbed by the Great Beast, and there's this amazing effect of her like
Oh yeah.
aging in like 2 seconds, like "Ah," and her face like stretches.
She drank from the wrong cup.
Yeah,
And
it's so creepy.
it was not the cup of kings. And yeah, and so then she gets taken to the other side, but turns out Grandma's there.
Well, she gets pulled in, and they're all just kind of like, "Oh, she's dead. Oh well." They just
yeah,
start
they're-
crying and hugging each other. It's like, you gonna like go in after her, try to pull her out or
Yeah.
anything? No.
They're like, it's too late. There's nothing more we can do.
Actually, I want to rewind here really quick because, like, we're bearing the lead on Grandma. They go to a diner after the first night that something happens
Oh
after
yeah,
the grandma
I
dies.
forgot about that.
this-
And,
Scene is
and then there's two friends, I guess.
No, it's supposed to be a mom and a daughter. They're credited as mom and daughter.
Okay, so it's a
and
mom and a daughter.
The daughter is mad that the mom's like fooling around with some jerky guy or
The
something.
dialogue for them is so bad.
Yeah, so it's like it's basically like supposed to telegraph that they're just not nice people.
She's like, why do you hang out with this guy? And he's like, because I like him.
It's like,
And you're like, why are we hearing this?
Yeah.
We're like, why are we hearing this conversation
At all. But then she's like, the mom stands up, and then she gets possessed by the grandmother very quickly, and she's like, you're my loveliest, you must stay together.
So stupid.
It's like, air dry the comforter.
Yeah, and it's like, it's so weird because the actress playing this daughter or whatever is so bad. But then the voice is the grandma's voice, and it's just like, this is such an awkward scene. And then and Diane is sitting there like she's like having an epiphany moment or something, like, whoa, what's
She's like,
happening?
Mama. Yeah. What we find out by the end of this movie is that the other side is an ADR booth. So yes, so we see that the grandma had medium powers, and so does everyone in her family. Carol Ann is lost to the lights, and they're all sobbing. And then, like, grandma flies in like a goddamn angel, and she's just like, take your kid. Bia!
She throws her back, yeah. But it's in this, like, oh my God, it's so cheesy. The music is like,
the worst.
She doesn't actually have like wings or anything, though. It just kind of looks like there's a bunch of sheets flying all around her.
It's like, but it's like
she's a linen angel.
It looks, it looks like the classic depictions of like an appearance of angels coming at
That's
you.
the Beyond of Bed Bath & Beyond.
And Carol Ann's like slowly flying, like, oh my God, hey. And it's just lots of, knowing after last week, what happens to the actress who plays Carol Ann. This whole movie is full of like things where you're like, oh God.
Yeah.
There's a whole scene where Carol Ann's like, I don't want to grow up because I think it's probably going to suck.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God.
Good news. You don't have to.
I mean, I had that thought, but it's a terrible thought to have.
And then this movie ends by just really demonstrating that it knows exactly what it is by having the Native American character steal a car.
And then they were just like, oh, wait, how are we going to get home? Wait, bring back the car.
We don't have cell phones yet. Help. How are we going to get an Uber?
So stupid. I hated that entire, like...
Yeah, it basically, we're alluding to is it just ends on this comedy note of Taylor taking the family station wagon from them for no reason.
That's the end of the movie.
And that is the end of the movie.
How poignant.
So there's also...
Also, Zelda Rubinstein not there anymore.
Yeah. There's an earlier...
She's in the cave still, maybe.
Flashback scene of Diane and Grandma planting roses when Diane was a little kid. And the actress who plays her as a little kid, I did find her for a Child Star check-in. Here's her bio from her Indiegogo page. Jacqueline Bernstein is an established actor, performer, and poet with strong involvement in social movements and community organizing. She has appeared in over 100 films, television shows, and commercials, and is now the founder of Matriarch Films. She is also the mother of 2 teenagers. Past credits include Family Ties, Fame, St. Elsewhere, The Golden Girls, and Twilight Zone, but not Poltergeist II.
Oh.
Dun, dun, dun.
Doesn't want to be involved.
Her short film that she successfully raised like $3,000 on Indiegogo for came out like 6 days ago. So,
oh wow,
good for her.
Congratulations. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what the other side has to offer. Not a ton of scares that I thought were great in this movie.
There's the mom's going around the house. There's a point where there's a bunch of things in a closet.
Yeah,
a little jumpy.
Like she thinks it's skeletons, and then it's like a bunch of brooms coming at her.
She has a dream that she's getting pulled in by the skeletons into the ground.
Just nothing quite as creepy or out there, except for the
worm.
That was the only good
scene.
thing.
Yeah. That was the best part for sure.
And then just the creepy old guy in general. Well, I really wanted to know more about the cult and what had happened there.
Yeah, it wasn't super well explained.
It's one of those things where yes, but at the same time it takes away from the thing that made the first one good. So it's like I don't know. Like, do I really want to know more about that? Like,
they only really explain that like he's just super evil, and that's why he hasn't crossed over yet. He's just so evil.
Which it's like I'd almost would rather have something where it's like, oh, like that we found somewhere where this layer is thin, like somebody from the other side, like who wasn't involved in it at all, but like now he's learned about it.
And there's actually some like really interesting dialogue in the scene with Henry Cain and Craig T. Nelson's character, where, he's talking about how Taylor is here, and he's like, oh, that's what he's calling himself now. But
Right.
it never goes into this. There could be this whole, like, really interesting, like, Native American versus, like, Pilgrim preacher
Right.
thing that it never really fully gets into.
Yeah,
'cause we
they
don't-
kind of mentioned that the Native Americans got blamed for the disappearance of the people.
Right. But it would be cool if there was more of a sense of, like, this eternal cosmic fight between, like, this entity, this guy who turned into this entity and, like, these Native Americans.
Right, because they say that he was a man possessed by a demon.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
like, it would be cool if there was more of that. but
Right.
It doesn't quite have the,
It
depth
feels like the
there.
movie might think that it already did that because, like, the ancestor that Taylor sees was allegedly fighting the same thing.
Right, and I guess you're maybe saying that, like, his spirit passed into him, but it's not really. They could have used a little bit more
Yes.
myth construction, I think. Yeah.
Or just get rid of like the Native American and cult thing completely and just be like, it was an evil serial killer that molested little girls or something. Like just
Yeah.
something more related to like what's actually
Right.
this family and this story. I don't know.
Yeah,
like-
it's very weird. I like wonder how they came to that. They're like, why are there going to be a bunch of skeletons underground? Like, how can we have skeletons further underground?
well, and it was like kind of
Well,
like
and it's like, and like, why this family? It's like, oh, well, they have to also be like special, and it's like, no, they don't. Like, it's
Yeah.
better if they're not.
it's like last time we had the researchers and then they bring in Tangina, and this time it's like, okay, well, we already did Tangina, let's make it this guy Taylor instead. But then they continue to like lean on the crutch of bringing Tangina back over
Right.
and over again, and so it's like, okay, did you move on or didn't you? You know?
Yeah, it's weird. Very weird.
I would have loved to see what happened at this fucking university. They have all this data now.
Yeah, they have the
Yeah.
tape.
That's true. We never deal with the
Yeah,
real
wouldn't they
world
be like
implications.
international? I know they said they didn't want to be on 60 Minutes, but wouldn't this tape have gotten out?
Well,
Yeah.
apparently they're not using the tape to try to help with their insurance.
The insurance
claims,
claim,
so-
yeah.
Oh yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, I
Craig
don't
T.
know.
Nelson's drinking a lot in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Like, they're at a bar, they're at a diner at 3 a.m. and he has a beer, and it's like,
he's not in a good place.
no.
There's just a lot happening, and it's like treats Native Americans so stupidly, and yet puts so much value on like the insecurities of a suburban middle-aged white dad that it's just kind of like, this is not interesting to me, you know? So
I don't know. Rating system?
How many worm-filled bottles of tequila
That's a good one.
would you give Poltergeist 2, the ADR booth?
I think I ended up giving this one 4 worm-filled bottles of tequila. Yeah, I feel like, like I mentioned earlier in this movie, like, earlier in the review here, it was maybe not the longest movie we've ever watched, but it felt like
It sure felt that way.
It felt so slow to me. I was just waiting for them to like, get to some of the scares and the poltergeist happenings. Like, it's going to happen, but it just took forever to get to anything that was like remotely creepy. This is such a long setup in this movie. And you'd think like by the sequel, they're just going to dive right into it quicker. And, maybe there was a slow build up in the last film, but it all felt like just really well paced. And this one just has an odd pace to it. And it's just really slow in the opening. And then it builds to some craziness, but in so few places that I, only ended up giving it a 4. And, however, the crazy, effects that are there, save for maybe the stuff in the final scene, is actually pretty awesome and worth checking out. Whether or not you want to watch the whole movie, you can check it out on YouTube, but I think it's worth seeing for that.
Yeah.
And the fact that they get the whole cast back is kind of cool as well.
Craig T. Nelson is fun in this movie.
Yeah. I wasn't a big fan of his haircut, but
Yeah.
it's fine.
I don't know. I feel a little bit kinder toward it, I think. So I'm just going to give it 6 bottles. Or wait, I was going to say worm-filled bottles. Yeah,
You got it.
Worm-filled bottles of tequila. I agree. It just seemed kind of all over the place and really out of order, but I thought like what was there was pretty good. That the creature stuff was really cool, and I did think that the 4 main actors were all still really good, and yeah, put a good performance forward. I think there's like a lot of weird things about like the Native American and the middle-aged insecurity thing, but at the same time, I guess that's sort of like looking at it through the lens of today, whereas back then, like, people wouldn't have even thought to be really that irritated by those things. Right. It wasn't as trite to talk about the insecurity of the dad or whatever, well, I guess maybe that's always been trite because we have, like, Death of a Salesman or something, anyways, but... yeah, so 6.
I'm going to give it 5 worm-filled bottles of tequila, and I think that this movie would have been greatly improved by a single 20-minute sequence in the center of the movie when the grandmother dies. Then we just cut to Kane wandering around purgatory with his flock still, and we don't even really realize it's the afterlife. And then when the grandma dies, that she shows up there, and then they capture her and they torture her.
Ooh, what?
And to find out where the family is, because it seems like when the grandma, like they were fine until the grandma died, or the grandma just completely rats them out. But either way, we get to see what the other side was actually doing. And what her death brought on the house. Like, it seems like that was the link. Like, they coerced it from her, or just her dying. It's an
interesting idea, yeah, for sure.
But, like, it was just like that. It was like the Westworld episode where it's just like here's a whole different exposition of, like, when there's no talking, you don't know what the fuck is happening, and then it gets revealed that way. Yeah, that would make it a better movie.
That would be cool. I did enjoy that there's this whole scene with Steve and Diane having a conversation about, like, Diane's like we got to figure out our lives. I really don't like leeching off my mom like this. And then, like, the next scene, the mom dies.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I guess we got this house to ourselves.
Yeah, I kept thinking they were going to say something about that. Like, well, now we have somewhere to live.
Yeah. And they also bring up this whole subtext of Craig T. Nelson's, like, first girlfriend or whoever it was. And like, Taylor's like, you need to, like, face what you are. You need to face, like, you need to tell the truth. And it made me feel like is Carol Ann, like, from a different mom?
No, I thought that they that was just supposed to be like a playful kind of, your ex-girlfriend, haha.
Oh, yeah. And
thing.
They sing to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's Poltergeist 2, The Other Side. The movie came out in 1986, and I think it got mediocre reviews, but it still did pretty well at the box office. Like we said, it got nominated for Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, but also got nominated for some Razzies.
Lots of Razzies. Like most of our movies.
For Zelda Rubinstein's performance.
Gina,
even though she's, like, barely in the movie. Like, I don't know why the Razzie people are so mean about that. But anyways, yeah, it did well enough for there to be a third film.
She was so bad in this movie, she couldn't even see in the door.
That was so
What's
funny.
the third one called?
Poltergeist 3. That's it.
Okay.
Poltergeist 3. That's it.
The third side.
The third side.
Why isn't it Poltergeist 3D if they were already trying to bring 3D into this one?
Well, maybe by this point they're like, okay, we can maybe make, like, a little bit more money, but the third one's not going to be as good.
Got it.
Who knows? But a third movie is coming to the podcast. Don't you worry. But in the meantime, Eliz, where can people keep in touch with us?
Yeah, you can send us an email at sequelrights@gmail.com with your ghost stories and suggestions for future franchises. And on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, you can find us at Sequel Rights. Please, for the love of God, send us ghost stories because I love ghost stories. I want to hear them. And please leave us, log on to your Apple iTunes, your Apple Podcasts, your Spotify's, leave us reviews. 5 stars would go a long way. Every star that you put up makes it less likely for Reverend Kane to show up on your doorstep.
All of you are gonna die!
That's right. That's right.
I think I just threatened the listeners.
I know. I was thinking. I was about to be like, yeah, if you don't put the stars up,
Which was not my intention, but no, we'd really appreciate it.
No, we love
Officer, I
stars.
swear it was just a joke.
We love stars. We love stars. We laughed afterwards. Anyways, we'll see you guys all next week as we continue our spooky October with Poltergeist 3.